But just how easy is it to do that? Well, for more on the perils and pitfalls of cause marketing, I'm joined by Karuna Jagger, the Executive Director of Breast Cancer Action. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, Karuna, let's start off. What are some of the criticisms of Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
Well, from the very beginning, Breast Cancer Awareness Month was created by a company that makes breast cancer treatments and also manufactures pesticides which can increase the risk of the disease. And they partnered up with the American Cancer Society to promote mammograms. What we've seen over the years is that this widespread screening of healthy asymptomatic women increases the number of women who are diagnosed with and treated for breast cancer, but has failed to significantly reduce the number of deaths. And so for this reason, we call this the cancer industry. We see nonprofits and companies working together in a hand-in-hand.
So with that being said, some argue that all this focus on marketing and commercialization actually diverts attention away from the disease and treatment. So is it doing more harm than good at this point?
You can't find anyone who is not aware of breast cancer. The question is, what do we do with that awareness? And at Breast Cancer Action, we've been advocating for actions to both stem the epidemic, turn the tide on the epidemic, and also address the needs of women living with the disease. So often awareness is really used as a push to urge women to get a mammogram. And as I explained, unfortunately, widespread, nearly universal mammography screening has not turned the tide on the epidemic. We cannot screen our way out of this problem. We need to reduce chemical exposures, which are driving the epidemic in the first place, and we need more effective, less toxic treatments so that fewer women die of the disease.
So with that focus on treatment, that's one aspect. Meanwhile, you have a lot of these sports teams really going all out during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, from their uniforms to their shoes. So what share of the money is actually going towards some of this treatment and research that's really needed?
It's a great question, and unfortunately, no one really knows. Anyone can put a pink ribbon on anything, and they do. We have seen pink ribbon handguns, pink ribbon garbage trucks. A couple of years ago, we had pink fracking drill bits. Companies are making money off of pink. Pink ribbons are a universal symbol of breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. People care about this disease. It is an epidemic and it is a social justice crisis. What's happening is that companies are saying they care about the disease and aligning themselves with public interest, but they're not actually taking the steps to make sure that they aren't contributing to increased risk of disease, or that the programs that they're funding actually make a difference for women. So all too often we see pink ribbons are sold and no money goes to any breast cancer organization. Or if it does, maybe it's pennies on the dollar. Programs may be simply to promote more awareness, which isn't going to make change. And sometimes the products themselves can contribute to increased risk of the disease. So we always encourage folks to ask critical questions before they buy pink. Right. We call this our Think Before You Pink program.
Now, what about lawmakers? What role can they take to really ensure that these marketed products aren't cancer-causing or aren't pink-washed, in that they have nothing to do with actually going to the cause itself? What would you like to see in terms of regulatory reform?
We want to make sure that the public is protected from chemicals that can increase the risk of breast cancer and other diseases and disorders. Right now, weak regulatory system means that the public is exposed to chemicals, hormone disruptors, carcinogens that can increase the risk of breast cancer throughout the course of their lives. So we know that breast cancer is a disease that develops over many years, and that early lifetime exposures, including fetal exposures, can increase the risk of disease down the road. So because our regulatory system is not sufficiently protecting us from these chemicals in our food packaging, in our daily products, our cosmetics, our cleaning products, all kinds of things, auto exhaust. We are exposed throughout the course of our lives to dangerous mixes of chemicals at unknown doses, and it's driving an epidemic.
Now, if at least some of this money is going to some of these causes, like whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's breast cancer, HIV awareness, is having a link to the industry necessarily a bad thing? Is cause marketing really a negative thing, or does it really have at least some sort of good?
Any company can donate to a cause, and too often what we see are companies are really focused more on their bottom line than actually making change in the world. So there are companies that write a check and are not engaged in self-promotion and are actually taking steps within their company to make sure that their company is operating in alignment with their charitable donation and their proclaimed values. What we object to are those companies that are profiting off the disease and are not taking the steps to make sure that they themselves are not contributing to increased risk of disease. Companies profit in two ways. When we put pink ribbons on products, they sell. And so companies make money immediately off of products that have pink ribbons on them. But more than that, companies generate goodwill from customers. And so they gain customer loyalty and long-term profit and benefit.
Right.
In both of these ways, we know that cause marketing works for companies. As a breast cancer watchdog, I want to make sure that it's working for women living with and at risk of breast cancer.
Indeed. At the end of the day, that really is what it's all about. Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Karuna Jagger, Executive Director of Breast Cancer Action.